Ladies and gentlemen, my duty here is to introduce our chief guest of this international conference, Sri Justin Mohan sir. The organizer has given me only a few minutes to introduce such a brilliant officer of Indian Forest Service. Personally, I am very happy that he belongs to Kerala cadre, and he is a native of Trichy in Tamil Nadu. So presently he is the Secretary, National Biodiversity Authority. He has been holding that position since 2019, and he is actually a 1999 batch IFS officer. And if you go through his biodata, one can very well say that he is a very brilliant bureaucrat belonging to Indian Forest Service. So he has held several positions. He was part of the Forest Department, and for many occasions he was outside the department and served the nation and the state in various capacities. Prior to joining the National Biodiversity Board, he was heading the Kerala Soil Survey and Soil Conservation Department. He also served the Forest Department as DFO in Munnar and Palakkad divisions. Later on, he became the Wildlife Warden and the Director of Silent Valley National Park. And he was the Conservator of Forest, High Range Circle. And he was heading the Kerala Agriculture Department when the state of Kerala faced floods in July-August 2018. And he has played a major role in reviving the agriculture sector by assisting the affected farmers through a special package sanctioned by the Union government. He also served as the first project director of Kottanad project, involving about rupees 1,840 crore. In 2011, Government of India appointed him as the first secretary in the High Commission of India, Colombo, to coordinate the relief, rehabilitation and development of war-affected families in Sri Lanka. During this 3-year tenure, he has implemented 50 major projects worth rupees 7,000 crore in Sri Lanka, including the Indian housing project involving construction of 50,000 houses for the benefit of the conflict-affected families. And I was wondering when he was giving the talk, see, he has got some botany background, I was thinking. He is actually a graduate and postgraduate in agriculture from the prestigious Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. And he has a graduation, post-graduation law also. I think that will be helping his present position in the National Biodiversity Authority. And because of his brilliant bureaucratic service, he was awarded with so many prizes and citations. He is a recipient of the Global Tiger Forum Award, Wildlife Trust of India Award, and the Nilagiri Wildlife Prize for contributions to wildlife conservation. And the Scotch Award was conferred on the Soil Survey and Soil Conservation Survey Department for developing a mobile app on soils titled Mann that benefits the farmers, and the Best Department Award was received in the State Science Congress in 2017 when he was heading the department as director. And during his early days of study, he obtained ICR scholarship for pursuing his master's program at TNAU. So, since the time given to me is very limited, I don't want to elaborate further, and I really feel honored for giving me a chance to introduce such a brilliant officer to this august audience. So on behalf of the organizing committee, I cordially invite Justin sir for his talk. Thank you very much.
Experts who are participating in this international symposium, students who have assembled here, good afternoon to you all. In fact, my time is over. I had to complete my talk by 1 o'clock, so it is almost 1 o'clock. So how long I should speak? Because I don't want to get scolding from the students. Anyway, I will speak for some 15-20 minutes. So I was asked to give a technical session only after coming here. I was not knowing that I should give a PowerPoint presentation. So I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. So what I thought was, coming from the National Biodiversity Authority, and since ferns also are an important component of our biodiversity, I would just brief you about the overall biodiversity governance in India, which every botany student or every botany scientist should know. And then if you have any questions, I am open to answering them towards the end of my talk. Now, we are all celebrating the 75th year of our independence, anniversary of our independence, and we have several achievements to cherish. One of the greatest achievements of independent India is the fact that we have been able to feed our growing population. In 1947, when the country got independence, our population was only 33 crore. Today, our population is 137 crore. So, more than 4 times the population has grown. But in spite of this growing population and lot of limitations on the land front, still we have been able to ensure that none of our citizens go hungry. Everyone is assured of our food, for which 3 groups of people have played a major role. One is, of course, our farmers, who are toiling day and night to ensure that there is stable, continuous supply of food production. Second group is our botanists, who have played a tremendous role in identifying wild relatives of our cultivated species. And of course, the third group is our plant breeders and agricultural scientists, who, after knowing the wild species of our existing cultivated crops, have ensured that lot of productive genes from the wild species get transferred to the cultivated species through various transgenic programs, biotechnology programs, conventional breeding programs. That has ensured that the food production and food productivity has increased over the years, and India has achieved self-sufficiency in food production, and for that we can all take pride. Every botanist sitting here, every botanist across the country, every agriculture scientist in this country can take pride and lot of happiness and satisfaction that we have contributed enormously for the development of this country, to ensure that our citizens are taken care. Of course, governments have also contributed in different ways by improving the infrastructure for agriculture. But the diversity of this country in terms of biodiversity has played a very, very major role to ensure food sufficiency in our country. We all can take pride that we are living in a country which is one of the 17 mega diverse countries in this world. So there are close to about 200 odd countries in this world, and out of these 200 countries, only 17 have been categorized as mega diverse countries, where there is lot of diversity, biodiversity, and 70% of the biodiversity falls within these 17 countries. And India is also host to 4 hotspots. You are already aware that India has 4 hotspots for Getting into a category of hotspot, there are two essential criteria. One is that there should be about minimum of 1500 vascular plants in a particular locality. Then only it becomes eligible to be notified as a hotspot. The second essential criteria is that 70% of the endemic species in that particular locality should have got lost, should have become extinct. So there is a lot of threat in that particular area. So when these two categories are fulfilled, then that area is categorized as a hotspot. The entire Himalayan region in our country is a hotspot. Entire Himalaya, it's called Eastern Himalayas, but in our country, right from Jammu Kashmir, Himachal, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar to Sikkim and the entire northeast is categorized as a hotspot. Similarly, the Indo-Burma region where Assam, Meghalaya falls, it's also categorized as a hotspot. Then we have this Sunda land where Nicobar Islands fall. They are also categorized as a hotspot. Apart from this, we have the Western Ghats, in which Kerala and this university is also listed. This is also categorized as a hotspot, right from Dangs in Gujarat till the Agastyavanam forest in Kanyakumari. The entire stretch is categorized as a hotspot, which is spread across 26,000 square kilometer, and we have about 65,000 species in this area alone. So these are all some of the important biodiversity rich areas in our country. But during the 19th century, when science and technology started improving, more medical facilities came, the population also started growing. That put a lot of pressure on our natural resources. And the easiest target were our forest ecosystems. Forests were destroyed to produce more, to cultivate more. In that process, a lot of biodiversity also got destroyed. This also took a toll on our environment as well. This is not only in India, I am talking across the world. And the world community understood the threat that the global community was facing on account of rampant destruction of forests and pollution of our environment. And that is how in June 1972 the Stockholm Conference happened. And at that time 116 countries were initial signatories to that conference. India also was one of the signatory. India was represented at the conference by the former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And then on June 5th, 1972, the conference took a pledge that across the world, all the signatories to this conference will enact suitable laws, frame suitable policies to protect their environment. And that is why 5th June is celebrated as the World Environment Day after 1972. And in India as well, we actually amended our constitution to bring in two components. One was the fundamental duty and then the fundamental right to safeguard our environment, and also the Air Act, Water Act and the Environment Protection Act was enacted by the Government of India as part of its commitment to the Stockholm Conference. But while countries were taking care of the environment, still there was a lot of threat to our biodiversity, because the corporates started extracting a lot of species, plant species, animal species, insects, fishes, reptiles, to produce various products. So in 1992, the Rio Summit happened, and the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, which was actually the outcome of the Stockholm Conference. The UNEP was born out of the, based on the outcome of the Stockholm Conference. The UNEP took initiative to come with 3 conventions. One was the Convention to combat desertification. They wanted to ensure that areas remain productive. It should not be converted into an unproductive desert-like area. Then another convention to combat climate change, United Nations Framework Convention to combat climate change, UNFCCC. And then the third convention was the Convention on Biological Diversity. This convention, all the three conventions, India is a party. You must be familiar with the Paris Agreement that pertains to UNFCCC, Climate Change Conference. The UN Convention on Biological Diversity was signed in 1992, May 22nd. India also became a party, and that is why every year 22nd May is commemorated as the International Year for Biological Diversity, where all the countries who became signatories to this convention were asked to enact suitable laws to safeguard the biodiversity in their respective countries. And the convention also recognized the sovereign rights of the countries over their biological resources. And Government of India also took the initiative to enact a law, and then they formed a committee chaired by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. You know that he is also from the botany background. From botany he moved to agriculture. So that committee gave its report to Parliament, and then the Cabinet approved, and in 2002 this act, that is the Biological Diversity Act, was enacted, and then followed by the rules which was also notified in 2004. And every state was asked to frame their own rules. So today we have a three-tier setup, one at the national level. There is a National Biodiversity Authority that is based in Chennai. Then every state has a State Biodiversity Board, and every local body, every panchayat, whether it is a gram panchayat or a block panchayat or a district panchayat, should have a biodiversity management committee. So this three-tier institutional mechanism was established under the Biological Diversity Act to safeguard our precious biodiversity in different parts of the country. And every institution has been given their own responsibilities, duties to perform. And we in NBA accord approvals for any entity or any company which is having any foreign participation in their share capital or management, foreign registered companies, companies which are functioning abroad, but they want to access any biological resource. So the Act says that since there is a large scale extraction of biological resources that is primarily coming from the forest, the tribal communities actually, as part of their livelihood, they collect a lot of medicinal plants and minor forest produce, seeds, without knowing their actual value, and then they go to the nearest tribal cooperative society or Vanasamrakshana Samiti or some local trader and hand over this material, from where it changes hands and it reaches the companies who use this raw material for making various products, and then they make lot of profit. So the Act says that whenever the company takes such biological resources, they have to share a portion of their profit, of their gain, to the people or to the communities who actually provide these resources. Say for example, a farmer who is involved in, say, cultivating of a particular medicinal plant, say for example aloe vera. Aloe vera, at the source the farmer sells it at approximately 7 to 8 rupees per kilo. But when it reaches a cosmetic company, they make products worth 7,000 to 8,000 rupees. So there is approximately 1,000 times increase in the profit for the company. And the Act says that the farmer or the tribal community who does not know the actual value of their effort or their raw material is entitled to get a small portion of the benefit. Whatever benefit you get, you share it to these communities. And since the communities are generally in rural areas or tribal areas, the National Biodiversity Authority or the State Biodiversity Board act as some sort of a voice for these voiceless people, some sort of a defense for these defenseless people. They execute agreements with these companies and then channelize the benefits, get the benefits and give it to these communities. This is our work. So the companies also have option to provide the benefits either in monetary form or in non-monetary form. So that the NBA will decide on how this company or particular company who is seeking approval from the NBA on what terms and conditions they have to execute an agreement. So biodiversity governance today has gone up to the grassroots level. We have established 276,000 biodiversity management committees across the country. And every state has a state biodiversity board. Every union territory has a union territory biodiversity council. And as botanists, you should know that the Biological Diversity Act actually facilitates research. Suppose you are doing a particular research and you want to transfer a result of that research to a company who is going to make profit out of that. Then it is always advisable to come through the NBA because NBA is the statutory body. So NBA will ensure that the company ought to pay a financial benefit to the scientist, to the botanist, who is actually providing the resource on an annual basis. There is a lot of myth that the Biological Diversity Act or the NBA or the State Biodiversity Board is a huge impediment to research in this country. It is not so. No Indian or Indian institution or Indian university need to take any approval from anyone for undertaking research. It is only when you are going to transfer your research result to any third party. Suppose you have some valuable genes isolated through some molecular biology and then some company is approaching you. It is at that time that you have to take the approval from NBA. If it is an Indian company, then they have to approach the State Biodiversity Board. If it is a foreign company or a company having a foreign shareholding, then they have to take the approval from the National Biodiversity Authority. So per se, research sector is actually being facilitated because this act itself was drafted by a team of scientists. Apart from M.S. Swaminathan, there was a core team of agricultural scientists and botanists who actually drafted this act to ensure that scientific institutions, research institutions get benefited out of their research work. In fact, whenever some research institution, like you give some microorganism to a company or some seeds to a company, then that institution is entitled to get benefits from the company on an annual basis. So, I would like to clarify that if there is any myth in your mind that research is being an impediment due to the BD Act, Biological Diversity Act, I think you should remove that from your mind. Also, I was deeply glued to the presentations of Dr. Irdhiraj and Dr. Kullar sir. So passionately listening to the research efforts that have gone into the ferns. Ferns, as you know, is an important component of our biodiversity and has been contributing to various commercial purpose. Commercial utility has been there, whether it is agriculture. In fact, during my school days, I was not knowing very much about these pteridophytes. We were from the state board where those days pteridophytes would be covered in 1 page or 1.5 pages. So we were not having much idea. It was only when I came to the college when this azolla was introduced. At that time only I came to know about this fern, the utility of this fern. And then again I was not fully in depth, I was not knowing in depth about this role of pteridophytes. But during my civil service preparation, there are about 60 marks where there is an assured question in botany paper in the civil service right from those days and even today on the reproduction of bryophytes, pteridophytes and gymnosperms. You had to know this reproduction of all these three category of plant kingdom, because one will be assured. 60 mark, if you know this reproduction of bryophytes, pteridophytes and gymnosperms, 60 marks like max you will get it. So at that time only I was amazed at the evolutionary significance of ferns, how it has contributed in the evolution, because we know that from virus to microorganisms to photosynthetic microorganisms, then we moved to bryophytes, which had habitat both in water and plants, and then slowly it moved to the pteridophytes. Pteridophytes, in fact, as you all know, that it has a primitive vascular system, and it's actually the start of the seed plants. So it has lot of evolutionary significance. It also has lot of ecological significance, because in the succession process they are considered to be the primary agents of succession, and it is a very good soil binder. Because it is a soil binder, it also helps in water conservation. But of late, because of global climatic changes, a lot of encroachments, destruction to the natural habitats, there is a lot of threat to the ferns. I am told that there are about 12,000 plus ferns totally identified globally. That is the data from the Botanical Survey of India. And 9% of the totally identified ferns are available in India. That's about 1,204 plants are available in India. But if you ask me whether all the ferns are identified, I will tell straight away no, because as part of evolution, new species keeps on coming, some species gets destroyed. So it must be only a minuscule of species that has been identified globally. It needs more research. And I am sure that this type of symposiums, seminars, where researchers share their knowledge, share their research work with their colleagues who are in the field of ferns and pteridophytes, I am sure that there will be a lot of mutual benefit, and we will carry a lot of information from this seminar. And we from NBA as well, if you feel that any particular fern which is having a lot of commercial value, whether it is industries or cosmetic value or medicinal value, and it is extracted in large amounts, and there is a potential threat for getting extinct, then the Indian Fern Society can take the lead to inform the National Biodiversity Authority, so that we can notify that species as a threatened species, so that if some company comes to us for any approval, then we will take due diligence whether to give approval or not. So I stop here, and if you have any specific queries on biodiversity conservation or Biological Diversity Act, or for any specific subject pertaining to biodiversity, I would be happy to answer. And for the student community, I would like to inform you that botany is really a fascinating subject. Had I not joined agriculture, I would have joined botany, because botany has a lot of scope for your future as well, apart from taking a line in towards teaching and research. And you can also diversify. You can become biotechnologist, molecular biologist, microbiologist. You can also move to the civil service or any other government job. And botany is a very good optional. Either botany agriculture or botany zoology has very good potential to clear competitive exams as well. So I wish all the students who are attending this program and studying in University of Calicut all the very best in your life. You have taken a good course, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session, very informative. and very engaging in spite of absence of a PPT. You are very powerful, more powerful than a PowerPoint. So thank you, sir. I had one clarification for the application of patent. Recently, when we apply for patent, they have made this NBA form mandatory. So this is a new addition, I thought. So we need to have information about, we need to submit a form and get approval before filing for patent. This is one. The second one is rather an apprehension. I may be wrong, kindly correct me if I am wrong. If the Calicut Botanical Garden now has been taken by NBA and declared as a reserve, will it involve more paperwork if I have to take some sample out from the botanical garden? Thank you.
Okay. So let me answer this patent question first. As of now, as the law stands, if anyone wants to take a patent on a product or a process that involves biological resource, it may be plants, animals or microorganisms or their parts or byproducts, then the patent office is not going to accept your application without the approval of the National Biodiversity Authority. So as of now, the applicant has to take an approval from the National Biodiversity Authority. They need not go to the State Biodiversity Board. SBBs do not have jurisdiction over patents. Only the National Biodiversity Authority has the jurisdiction. Normally we give the approval within 3 months. But if all the required information is available, then we grant it within a month. Within 3 to 4 weeks, you get the approval. And as you know, patent is a very long process. Once you give the application to the patent office, they take your application only after 2 years. So for 2 years, it will be in public domain to check whether there is any opposition to that patent. So within 90 days, we give the approval. So this approval from NBA is not going to be an impediment to your delay in getting the patent from the patent office. Okay. But having said that, now in the BD Act is in the process of amendment. We are introducing, in order to ensure that the patents or patent applicants do not have any problem, because most of the time patents come from research institutions, universities, because if they want to get NAC accreditation, then this is also a criteria that how many patents you have got, that institution has got, that university has got. So in order to increase the number of patents, there are a lot of applications from research universities, scientific institutions. They may not have any commercial intent for making any commercial product out of that patent which they are going to get. So now in the process of amendment, we have suggested that at the time of application, you need not take the NB approval. So you can directly go to the patent office and submit your application. But at the time of commercially exploiting that product or process, that time you have to take the approval. So when this amendment is getting passed, then the problems that are faced by the patent applicants, that can be resolved. I think then only when you are going to commercially exploit that product, that time only you need to come to NBA. Now the second question was pertaining to botanical. Once area is notified as a biodiversity heritage site, it is actually some sort of a recognition. There is no regulation or a control on what to. That is purely based on the managers. They can decide on how to manage the biodiversity heritage site. It is not like notifying a reserve forest or a national park or national sanctuary. It is not like that. This is some sort of a recognition given by the Biological Diversity Act, this BHS, Biodiversity Heritage Site, in order to notify that. Suppose if you also have some area in mind. So there is a guideline available in the website of the National Biodiversity Authority that gives you the pro forma in which you have to apply and get the status. This BHS has to be notified by the state government. It has to be recommended by the State Biodiversity Board. In the case of University of Calicut, they can give the proposal to me because I have seen this area. I can also strongly recommend, but ultimately The notification has to come from the state government. But in the case of national repository, that is notified by the government of India. Till date, there are only 17 repositories. So, per se, there is no major regulation which the Act has on these areas. It is on the part of the managers of the repositories or the biodiversity heritage site to manage those areas as deemed fit.